Alright. I think it'll take 25 seconds to catch up because you've hit live, so it'll take 25 seconds for us to go live. I think the idea behind that is so that we've got time to get ourselves sorted before it goes live.
This chat box is on the right hand side now.
Yeah, if you go to the Birdcamp Wonderland YouTube page, subscriptions, and you click the Birdcamp Wonderland page, and then you click into the top broadcast, or the one that sort of says top broad, the one that says
We're on.
Right, we're on now. Okay, now if I just type something, can you see that I've just written hello in the chat box? All of you.
Yes, I can.
Brilliant. Right, we are there.
Chris has just written hello in the chat box. I cannot see it.
Gim, go to this link. Look in the Google Hangouts chat page.
He's just put a link up.
In the window that's open separately, as in our personal window, if you click that link, that should take you to the live stream, and then you need to mute your YouTube channel.
Oh, sorry, it's me. There we go.
Thanks, Dom. The one that says
Okay, I've got you.
You got us? Right, mute your YouTube channel, yeah? Everyone on mute now?
I need to mute the YouTube channel.
You see that I've just written hello? Mute the speaker on YouTube, Gim.
There, got it.
Okay, cool. Right. We are live, boys and girls, so we need to get a tweet out.
Okay. Am I the only one with the access to the Birdcamp Wonderland, or have you got it?
I can do it if you like.
Okay, if you want to go ahead and do it.
2 seconds, let me just check this link.
Tweeting the link for people just to click straight on, is that what's happening?
Yes, we will do. Oh, fuck a duck. I need to... Oh, bollocks. I haven't got the link. Again, if I... Shit. I haven't got the...
Indy's here. Hello, Indy.
Hello. Right, we are working. I haven't got the...
Stop swearing, Chris, for fuck's sake.
Hey?
Can you please stop swearing?
Sorry. I've got the YouTube link, but I'm not logged into the ABW Twitter page other than via my phone, which means I need to painstakingly write the link out.
Okay. Is there any way you can send it to me and I can post it to the?
It's alright. Don't worry. I'm on it. Like
we're ahead of this, people. Don't forget that you're giving up your Saturday nights for a Birdcamp Wonderland, and I thank you all.
You damn right. Right, I'm just going to tweet the link now. And yes, IQ. Gim, I'm going to need you to test this via the podcast account to make sure this link works when I tweet it. GP8, somewhere Danny's turning in his wheelchair again.
Back to the Future wheels through the wall.
Right, I've just tweeted via the podcast account. Can one of you just click that link and make sure that it comes up, brings you to this page, please?
Kate is going to do it for me. She sat next to me now.
Cool.
So then, gentlemen, hopefully this is up and working and we are chatting to the masses.
Yeah, we're only 2 hours late, so it's all good.
But the best things that come, no, that's small packages.
Best things in life are free? No, that's wrong as well.
Although it is free.
Good things come to those who wait. There you go.
Yes, that's the one. I knew there was something out there that covered how we were feeling.
Happy days. Right, I'm just checking this link works. No, I've tweeted the wrong link. Sorry.
What did you say?
What a moron. Okay, I'm going to delete that.
Oh, Struth. Oh, Dom, listen, calm down. You're getting a bit aggro on us.
You're getting a bit aggro.
It's 7 in the morning. I haven't had any sleep yet. I'm getting cranky. I need a nap.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'm just going to send another link out.
I think the best thing about this is that technology has shifted all of our focus away from the game.
Mm-hmm.
It has.
I think, in all fairness, I've spent the last 2 hours sat here and I've had a bit of a laugh. King is still taking a poo. Hello, King. 1, 2, 2, 3.
2, 2, 3.
Oh.
Right. Oh,
Hi, Indy.
There you go.
Yes, King. Is that Mark? Mark? What? Is it Mark King? MK? Yeah, it's Mark King, isn't it? I wonder if it's not. Sorry, sorry, whoever it is, if it's not. Oh, why can't I tweet this? Right, the only way I'm going to be able to do this is if I tweet this link via my personal Twitter account and retweet it via the pod account, or I'll copy and paste the link. So let me just tweet and make sure this link works.
Oh, hold on. If Kate's sat next to me, if I can get her to post the link.
If you can ask Kate to do a. In fact, actually, no. Don't worry.
Guys, I'm just putting you on mute for a second.
Cool. We'll start officially in a minute. Promise. Right, the link I've just tweeted is working. So I'm just going to retweet it via the podcast account, and then we're up and running. What? My personal Twitter account and retweet it via the pod account, or I'll copy and paste the link. Somebody's not on mute.
Is that me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. I've got the link now, so I'm just going to tweet it via the pod account, and then we're up and running. Do bear with me. Thanks, Chucks. Right. Back Wonderland podcast.
So, are we all good now?
We will be in 30 seconds. Right. After many Google Plus related stresses, we are now live here. Oh joy. Hashtag ABW radio. Okay, that should now be on the podcast account, and we should now be live. I will just triple check it just so that I'm 100% right. And
I'm scared to actually click any buttons because the moment I click something,
it's all good. It's all good. It works. The
Don't
link
touch anything. Anybody.
The link is live. Yeah, again, if you want to retweet that, you can do. I've just retweeted it via. Right. So we can properly introduce ourselves now, if you like, or we can just pretend we're not here. A cower. We got 12 people. 12 people watching us. Again,
Weirdos.
Yes. My name is Guna Gimli, aka Peter Silverbottom.
And I am Chris, and we also have Dom here.
Hello.
And Dom, what time is it in Australia?
7:02 a.m.
Lazy. And we have Canadian Jeff here as well. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, everybody. I've stuck with it here, and we're live. Amazing.
Gim, would
technology.
Gim, would you like to give everyone an idea just how much stress this has been to get us live and 2.5 hours late?
Well, we started this about, half an hour after the game went, and we've sat there, and Danny's got so angry with it, he's actually bleeding from his bum.
I've had an injury. Doctor emergency.
And it's just been an utter pain in the arse, but we're here. We are recording live. Thank you to all the people putting their lovely messages in the box. Indy, Joe, Shmwu,
SHMIW, hi guys, hello, and Tom H as well, who struggled most to get going, this live chat or our season. Oh, good question, Tom. Yeah, it's been very stressful, very stressful. We had Danny was here earlier on. Danny is, we think he's still alive. We think we're hoping, but given your metaphor earlier on was like the Back to the Future scene.
Yeah, like if you remember, is it Back to the Future 1 where you've got him going into the cinema at the end and just the two lines of fire? There is at Danny's house. There is like a silhouette of a man in a wheelchair going through the wall with the two lines of fire across his living room. Either that, or he's hung himself with Skype credit.
which we really hope is obviously not the case. It's been a nightmare. We're broadcasting now, obviously at 10 o'clock. So for those of you listening to the replay of this, which will be up later on, I'm sorry, but you dodged a bullet because we tried to go live at 8 o'clock. Obviously, we had techie issues. It all comes down to the fact, basically, and this is an 18+ broadcast, so forgive my language. Google are cunts, and that is the reason why we've had so many issues getting live. It's nothing to do with our supremely talented skill at broadcasting, honest. We couldn't log in. Then we managed to get it live with the help of the lovely Kate. We managed to get live, but we couldn't get the chat box. Now, finally, we have the chat box. So, Gim, if you want to take it away, we can talk some football.
Yes, of course. Now, we all sat down and watched the game earlier, and I can't help but feel at the end of it that I was just a little bit disappointed. At 1-0 down, I thought it was, we gave away a shoddy goal to them. There isn't any way other than looking at it. I mean, Chris, for you, was that Szczesny's fault or was that Flamini's fault?
Well, in my opinion, a few people completely disagree with me straight away, but as soon as I saw the goal, I was screaming at Szczesny before he'd even let that ball go, and then obviously the goal came, and I took to Twitter, which I try and avoid tweeting too much during games, because there's nothing worse than people that sit there and tweet all the way through a game and tell you that you haven't seen something. It's like, well, hang on a minute, you've been tweeting all the way through the game. So I try and avoid it, but the minute that Szczesny got that ball, I think Spurs had a free kick, if I'm not mistaken, that was swung in, and Szczesny claimed the ball. And it's a bugbear of mine that, okay, yeah, you want to play on the counter-attack, but from when your goalkeeper claims the ball, the only time you should release it fast is when you've got a player looking to receive the ball with clear space in front of them. And for me, I think it was Chambers that he released it to. He didn't look set to receive the ball, and Szczesny just seemed to just have a brain fart and release it far too fast. Chambers just about controls it, plays it into Flamini, who again was not set to receive the pass. When we're on the break, the players weren't facing the goal. They seemed to be sort of facing side on, with a suggestion of, right, let's wait for the goalkeeper to calm the proceedings down, then we'll all get into positions and away we go. But yeah, for me, to answer the question, I thought Szczesny was entirely to blame. Yeah, granted, Flamini could have been stronger, but when you're receiving a pass and the first thing in your mind is, can I get my body between the ball and the player and hold this ball off? That's what he tries to do. And the pass that comes into him, he doesn't expect it, he gets robbed, and then the rest is history. But yeah, I personally put that entirely down to Szczesny's over-enthusiasm and poor distribution.
And I see that, is that Ewan? He's put in the group about the Hawkeye, which was something that we all spoke about before this actually went live. And I said that the Hawkeye that they actually showed on Sky Sports showed that the ball was nowhere near the line. And I was sat there chatting to my other lovely hearth, Kate. Say hello. Hello. That's Kate from the Goon Girls, by the way. And we both agreed that the ball seemed that it actually travelled closer to the line of what the Hawkeye showed. Jeff, can you shed us any more light on that at all?
The one thing I would say is be careful of pictures you see on the internet. So I tend to agree with you, Gimli, that when I saw it live, I thought that ball was a lot closer to the line than what we saw on the replays. And I thought, when I watched the replay and when I watched the Hawkeye replay and I watched it hit Loris's hand, my initial instinct was that they're not showing the full movement of the ball. Like, it seems like they're stopping it. I'm like, I sort of yelled at the TV, show more. And they sort of stopped it and they paused it, and it seemed like the ball was still moving in the goal direction. I mean, it's almost impossible to say. I've seen the pictures that are floating around on Twitter, and I look at them and I go, wow, that looks like it's in, but I've seen all sorts of things on the internet that aren't real. So just be careful with that one. But my gut instinct at the time was that ball had crossed the line.
And Don, we'll go to you next. And as everybody that listens to the show on a weekly basis knows, you are the Don Daddy when it comes to our injuries. We saw two pretty major ones this week. I did manage to catch the Arsene Wenger interview afterwards, in which he said neither Arteta nor Ramsey would be available for Chelsea next week. Can you shed us any more light on the injuries, please?
Panic. We're cursed. Something's happening at the club, and every time we play, we end up with more injuries than we do goals. So I think we should all scream and carry on. I think that we won't see any of those guys for about 3 or 4 weeks, to be honest. They were pretty reasonable strains. I don't think there's any major tears, but there'll definitely be probably grade 1 to 2 strains, and Arteta with his calf and Ramsey with his hamstring. So it's pretty concerning when we've got Chelsea and Galatasaray and stuff coming up.
Yeah, and those are big games. Did you say at the time the Arteta one was a calf strain and the Ramsey one was a hamstring?
Yep, yep. So
And
yeah, when you've got the problem with Arteta is that this is an ongoing injury. I said at the start of the season, sorry, the start of the transfer window that I wanted a defensive midfielder because people were talking about how Diaby wouldn't stay fit and that was a concern. But I'm just as worried about Arteta. He's 32, 33, and he has these reoccurring calf injuries where he keeps straining calf muscles, and it is known as the old man injury. So it's something that kind of pops up a little bit too consistently for him that you can't really trust him for a big run of games anymore. And I think he's got way too much responsibility in that part of the pitch without too much help. So I've been a little bit critical of him before. He is a square peg in a round hole, but it's not really his fault that he gets relied upon so much and that we haven't added anybody in there to help him out.
no, of course. And Chris, what do you make of the injuries? I mean, it'd be easy for us to sit here and talk about how we were going to line up for Galatasaray, but I think we should really focus on the game. I mean, do you think he made the right substitutions at the right time? And what do you think about Sanchez not starting the game?
I wasn't particularly surprised that Sanchez didn't start. I think Arsène's kind of got to that point where he thinks maybe that it would be better to introduce him gradually rather than just throw him in, because there was a tendency for us to sort of go, okay, we've got Alexis, he'll do it all, we'll be fine now at the start of the season. And I think there's two things there. One, Dom will probably say the same. He'll get burnt out very quickly if he's playing every minute, especially the work rate he puts in. He's everywhere. And two, I think, particularly in these big games, he tends to favour the players that are either homegrown or very experienced. Oxlade-Chamberlain was preferred over him today, and we've seen Rosicky playing these big North London derbies before. So I think there was an element of a sort of caution almost in playing a player that is going to understand the value of the game. Same with Jack Wilshere. But I think substitutions wise, I mean, I was fine with it because both the two that were enforced, we had no choice, and the Alexis one I think was probably, I think he was right to hold off, because if he'd have left it much longer, if he'd have done it earlier and we'd have got another injury, we really would have been buggered. So I think he was just trying to be a bit careful about how soon he made that last change before, and also checking who could go on. Just to sort of touch on what Dom said there, I worry about Arteta because this is a guy he's not had a serious amount of injuries over the years, but he seems to be picking them up quite regularly now, and indeed Flamini has this season as well, which is a bit of a worry. And as far as sort of today's game goes, sort of playing the lineup, I mean, I was pleased that Oxlade-Chamberlain started. I think he needs to play a lot more games for this club because he's a game changer. But no, I was the other thing I wanted to mention as well was this Hawkeye debate, if I may. We were just talking before we went on air for 7 hours. There was a goal I vaguely remember. I can't remember what game it was in, and I can't remember what teams it were playing. But there was a goal last year, or a shot last year, that hit a post, and then it went across the line, hit another post, and they showed at the time. I remember, was it somebody on Talk Sport went absolutely mental about it? Can you remember the one I mean?
I can't remember.
It was during the World Cup. Sorry, it's just come back to me. It's Jonathan Pearce during the World Cup, and everyone took the piss out of him, going, "Oh, Jonathan Pearce is going nuts," because he was like, "Oh, why are they showing that replay? That's ridiculous. It's clearly not over the line." "Oh, but it's over the line. It's a goal. It's a goal. Why is he not giving it?" And it was basically because there was two phases of play, and they showed one replay where the ball hit the post, and the goal was not given, quite rightly, and then the second replay where the ball went across the line, and that was then given. But because the ball stopped, or the phase of play had stopped when the ball hit the post, they didn't give the goal. That's a really convoluted way and confusing way of putting my point across. But anyone that saw that goal will remember what I'm talking about. And I'm just looking at these replays, and like Jeff says, I wouldn't ever trust a photo on the internet, because there's all sorts on the internet, as we all know. But there's a replay in the Vine of the save, and as Dom said pre-pod, Lloris makes the first save. It's the second save where it does look like the ball does go very close, if not over the line. And I'm just wondering that when Sky Sports showed that replay, they only showed the replay of the first save, and that's where they stop it for the goal line technology, but they don't show it for the second one. So it'll be interesting if Match of the Day pick up on that tonight, or if anyone picks up on it.
just to add to Chris's point, it is possible that Google is running the Hawkeye technology, and that might be what the problem was, and that might have actually affected our pod today as well. So
Yeah, we blame Google for everything,
I
basically.
think Google is involved somehow.
And Tom, and there's somebody else, Petros. I'm not going to try and pronounce your name, but it's France v Honduras.
That's the Badger. Yes, was it Benzema? I think at the shot, maybe.
Quite possibly, yes.
Thank you, Tom.
I do remember it now. But I think it was a game that was a game full of passion and a game full of controversy, as most North London derbies are. Dom, for you, where was the game won and lost?
I think from watching the game, Tottenham just looked so bad when they did get a chance to break and come at us that I even sort of thought to myself, the only way they're going to score is if we hand them a goal, and that's turned out to be what happened. I don't think we were as bad as what people are making out. You saw what their game plan was. The height of their ambition was to rock up at our place and play for a draw. They weren't interested in trying to press on to win. We'd never do that just about anywhere. If we're drawing with a team, we're going to be going for a win. So I don't think we were as bad as... I think it was just frustration because we kept going forward. They were sitting back so deep. Kabul played an absolute blinder, so did Lloris. They both played really, really well. And when your two best players are your central defender and your goalkeeper, you know that you're putting that team under a fair bit of pressure. So, on any other day we might have put 2 or 3 past them, but it was just one of those games where it's just made a little bit more frustrating because it's Tottenham. So, I think just a little bit more clinical in the box, or maybe just a bit more of a plan B that we didn't seem to have. But when the team sits so deep and you don't give Ozil a chance to create, and you don't give Wilshere a chance to run in behind, and these guys a chance to move around, then you're going to make it difficult for us, and teams know that, and we've just got to be better at breaking teams down.
And Chris, you made a point before we came live that Tottenham were trying to defend the draw, and it looked like they won an FA Cup final afterwards. Surely they're going to be happier with a point than what we are.
Yeah, I think you saw their level of satisfaction when it was the board went up for 5 minutes to go, and they all collectively sort of sat back, and it was clear that they came for a draw. I agreed with our very own Jeff, who tweeted a little while ago, and I'll read it for you word for word because I retweeted it. It was a piece of genius. Bear with me. Brilliant preparation that was. Jeff simply tweeted... Oops, sorry. It's gone. Okay, brilliant. Okay, I'll come back to that. But basically what he was saying was that they were shit today. And they were. They came looking for the draw. They pretty much got what they came for. This is what Jeff tweeted. Sorry, definitely 2 points dropped today. Spurs really shit, who deserve nothing. So disappointed, but we'll get better. And I think that kind of sums it up perfectly. Really, they came with a game plan of sort of sit fairly deep, attack us on the counter, which in fairness, I hate to give them any credit, but that is our Achilles heel. If you look at how we get picked off in the so-called big games, it's often on the counter-attack because we're bombing forward and we get caught going the other way. And when they got their goal, it was very clear that that's what they were going to sit on. I was very surprised, I don't know if you're going to bring it up in a minute, but the challenge by that cretin Mason, which was very high on the shin of Ozil. There's a picture going around YouTube at the moment. I thought that was a disgusting challenge. And if that is anyone with any sort of history or past of bad challenges, that will be reported everywhere. I'll bet you dollars to donuts that won't even be brought up in anyone's column in the newspaper tomorrow.
No, because he did. He caught him studs up. What was it, on the left leg, on his ankle? Square on his ankle. It was, any other day it could quite possibly have been a leg breaker.
Wasn't even ankle. If you look at the picture, which I retweeted, it is where your shin pad sits. It's just at the top of the shin pad, so it's about, I would say, 4 inches below the kneecap. It's a shocking challenge.
We should talk about the referee as well, because the referee seemed very card happy this afternoon, and you got to look at the situation from where we were when we'd used 2 substitutions. We were 1-0 down. I mean, it didn't look that positive for us, did it, Dom?
No, I've got a couple of mates that I watch the football with sometimes, and every time the ref gets his little card out, they go, "Oops, slice of cheese." So I just kept having that in my head the whole time I was watching that game because he was like you said, very card happy, and I think you set a precedence when you get a card out that early in the game for those little half challenges that you've got to keep giving them for the rest of the game. There was one that there was one that Spurs gave away to us that was just a foul because he was already on a yellow, and then Callum Chambers went and pulled someone's shirt and he got a yellow straight away. And that's the sort of thing that frustrates me, is that if it's a foul, it's a foul. Just because someone's already got a yellow, if they give away another yellow card offence, then it's another yellow card. So that's where the what's the word? It's not just the consistency just wasn't there, and that's what really annoys me with refereeing decisions. If he's going to get the card out and get it out early and set a precedence for the fact that it is a big North London derby and he just wanted to get some authority on the game, I've got no problem with that. But it's the consistency that annoys me when there's a yellow for one thing and then not for another, sort of literally 3 minutes later, if not sooner.
Okay.
And Jeff, the commentator I heard say on today's commentary that the referee should maybe give a little bit of discretion, seeing as the fact that tensions are high, where emotions are running high, and it's a North London derby. Is that something you agreed with, or is that if a man's had 2 yellow cards or is on a yellow card and he's made a bad challenge? I mean, for me, I could look at Lamela and say today he could have been off the field.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Dom here that there was a bit of inconsistency, but I think there's a couple different ways to ref that game, knowing that there's going to be tension high. As you mentioned, get on the cards early, but as a ref, you can put yourself in a bad position that way because if the teams don't settle down, if you've given your yellow cards out too lightly, then you're in a position where you've got to give more yellows. And I was having a conversation with somebody as well during the game, and I was actually saying, around the 60th minute mark, that one of these teams is not going to finish with 11 men on the field. And I guess the argument could be that could be Arsenal. We could have more injuries, but the flip side was really it was about cards, and he didn't apply it consistently. He started by giving the yellows, and then he went to the talking tos after the yellows, which to me that seems a little bit backwards. I think you can talk guys through this as an experienced ref. You should be able to say, you know what, guys, you're in a derby. Settle down a little bit. You're going to get a card next, rather than starting with the yellows and then moving to the talking tos. It seemed to me, I'd say it seemed a little bit backwards. That's maybe not how I would do it, but in the end, both teams finished with 11 players, which I thought was a little bit surprising.
And Chris, to pick up on Jeff's point there, surely it makes more sense as a referee to go, okay, we're not going to book you early, because that changes the whole format of the game then. If you've got central defenders or just defenders in general, or holding midfielders on yellow cards, it changed the whole mentality of how a team plays. As a football manager, do you agree with that?
Jason will kill you for saying that.
I've made no joke.
I've
not made a single joke.
That's a very poor football manager.
Calm down.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's a really tough job for, I'll get words out eventually, for a referee in these situations. Now, for the record, I thought Oliver was fucking terrible today, to be perfectly honest with you. Exactly what Jeff said. There was no consistency. I didn't feel that he was pulling people up for the trivial things, then letting serious things go. Then he went, I'll do some serious things. Then I won't. It just seemed to be all over the shop. And I think as a referee in these big games, you've got to be strong and you've got to go one way or the other from the outset. I think if you make that big statement booking with the early booking, and you say, right, that's the statement I'm making now. Any more challenge like this, you'll be off. Then I think it makes the players realise that you can't get away with it. But I felt what he did today was sort of make his mind up on each individual challenge, which I don't think is something you can do in a derby game when the pace is different, the atmosphere is different. And particularly when, I don't know how many bookings they ended up with. Was it sort of 7 or 8 players booked? I've already covered that. I thought Mason should have walked. And for me as well, the penalty or non-penalty when Jack gets caught, I retweeted a tweet from, I think it's Arsblog earlier on, when he said Jamie Redknapp shouldn't be allowed to speak, and I 100% agree with him. They cut to the studio at half time and they say, oh, is this a penalty for you, Jamie? He's like, not for me, not for me. Oh! And it's like, Jamie Redknapp, you are a bellend. If you can't see that Jack Wilshere gets clipped on the ankle as he clearly, yes, he turns his ankle, and the reason he doesn't appeal for the penalty is because he's turned his ankle. So his first priority is, ow, that bloody hurts. I'm surprised that none of our guys went up for it, because from the referee's angle, if you look at it again, it's as clear a penalty as you're likely to see. And if that's a booking for, was it Kabul, I think, that clipped him, or was it Danny Rose? I don't know, Danny Rose might have been having a burger at the time. But
I think it might have been Kabul that had him.
And wasn't Kabul later booked?
I think so, quite possibly.
I'll have to check that. But, I mean, that's another potential flashpoint. So I just thought overall the referee, throughout the course of the game was poor. Kabul wasn't booked, actually, so I'll take that back. But even saying that, if Kabul's booked in that incident, he's then got to watch his step. And granted, grudgingly, I have to say, he was immense for them today. But if he's booked in the first half, he can't go throwing himself into challenges like he did in the second half. So that affects the game. So I thought the referee was poor, and I think you need stronger refereeing in these sort of games.
And I don't really know what else to cover from there, gentlemen. Is there anybody on the YouTube that's listening to us now that has got anything you want us to talk about?
We got a 25-second delay for them to come in, so we'll.
As we
refereeing just quickly while they do that, if I can.
Go on, Dom.
Yeah, go on, Tom.
I'm not usually someone that sits there and likes to use the referees as a scapegoat. I really dislike when people do it, purely because I think that if you're good enough, you can get away with some shit refereeing. And I think that's us tonight. We gave them a goal, absolutely gifted them a goal, and the referee did his best to help them out, and they still couldn't create anything. We just weren't good enough to break them down going forward. And look, those games are going to happen. We're going to get frustrated when teams come to our place, and they played like a mid to lower table team when your West Hams and your Newcastles turn up and they just put everyone behind the ball. That's what Tottenham did. So it's more of a reflection on where they're at, I think, than where we're at. I think we're just getting a little bit too sort of negative. I think I know that we haven't really clicked into top gear much this season with the team, but I just think that the way that Tottenham decided to turn up and play, letting us have so much possession, they never closed us down. The players had so much time and space on the ball because they were all so far back. We saw it in the World Cup where the underdog teams were doing quite well doing that. They were sitting right back and then just, counter-attacking every now and then, using those chances and trying to make those opportunities count. But Spurs had their chances with the counter-attacks, but they were just too shit to do anything with it.
I gotta agree with Dom on that. That was my thinking when I saw the way we lined up, that we're going to leave ourselves exposed for the counterattack. And then when I watched it, and they had 2 or 3 chances, I think, in that first half where they caught us on the counter, and they just sort of passed the ball away, or their passing was wayward, or it went to Adebayor, who couldn't do anything with the ball. And I couldn't help but think that if there'd been more quality up for them up front, that they should have punished us a little bit. So I think that's a valid point by Dom for sure, that they were just pretty rubbish in our final third.
We've got a few things to talk about now. Thank you for the lovely people that are listeners.
One in particular.
It seems to me like coming through is corners, and how what did it end on? 15 or 16 corners to us, I think it was. I mean, surely you would have thought that we could have done a little bit more. Is our set piece play poor, Chris?
Yeah, in a word. We don't. It's very strange. We've got. You're right. We had 15 corners tonight, and it's very strange for a side that have got one in particularly, arguably one of the tallest centre halves, if not the tallest centre half in the league. We've got one of the best headers in the league in Koscielny. We've got a player like when he's on the pitch in Giroud, who's clearly very good in the air. And yet our delivery, it just seems to be so poor. We can't defend them and we can't attack them, which is really strange. As far as the defending corners goes, I'm really not sure. I can only assume it's this zonal marking. But at the end of the day, that's the manager's choice, and it doesn't matter whether we sit here and bash our keyboards until we're blue in the face. if he chooses to do zonal marking, that's what we've got to do. But what we have to do is start actually learning to do it correctly. If you mark a zone, the main thing you should teach your defenders, and I've read books on this, boys and girls, is that you should essentially, you're marking that space, and when a player enters that zone that you're marking, you stop him getting to the ball. What you don't do is mark the space and watch as your chap comes trundling into your space, rises above you, and smashes the ball towards goal. We seem to be of the sort of point that we'll wait for the players to come on towards us, and we'll only make the challenge at the very last minute, which is no good, because when a player's got a run on you, they get higher, they make connection quicker, and they've got a better chance on goal. And as far as attacking the goal, I really don't understand why none of our players, and players as good as Ozil and Alexis and other, why can they not take a corner? It's beyond me why we can't beat the first man.
I wrote a note. I wrote a note about the corners actually in my game notes, Chris, and I wanted to touch upon the delivery a little bit. The one thing I noticed is that they, especially with Ozil, he hits them quite flat. Like there's no, they come in and they keep rising, and they're very straight, and there's no sort of guile on the ball at all. There's no spin or curl to deceive anybody. And I think when you hit it like that, it's very rare that it'll make it past the front post, because it starts low and it rises. Yeah. And I kept watching them, and I said, and finally we put Santi on the far corner, and he took one that kind of bent in, and it was a little bit better. But I think it's that flat delivery it just doesn't work for me.
No,
and I think it doesn't work for us.
Totally agree.
No.
We should also say, Gim, as well, that the people that are asking us to talk about the Chelsea game, we save that for the pod, boys and girls. This is very much just a purely reactional facility for the game, so we'll do a full preview of the Chelsea game on the pod, I'm sure.
Yes, we will do that.
Sorry, I'll jump in on the zonal marking situation. I did hear, I don't know if you guys heard it on your coverage, but I did hear Arsene Wenger in an interview afterwards actually say that he was pretty disappointed with the fact that we had so many corners and didn't do anything with it, and he did say that that's an area that he really wants to improve on. So maybe there'll be a bit of training ground practice going on, hopefully. But
So,
yeah, I
who's
think it
in
was the
charge of
delivery.
that, Tom?
Oh, I wouldn't have a clue, to be honest. Would not
Steve
have a clue.
Bold there, one of the finest centre-backs in our history. How are we not...
I was going to say you would have thought that would have been Steve Bold, because there was talk last season that Steve Bold took the training and the defensive training, which I would presume would mean headers from corners. And then Arsene Wenger apparently got the arse with him, and he didn't take the training anymore. But something, surely you would have thought, these boys train pretty much every day, that this was something that would be assessed, and that they would get sharp, and that they would get crisp, and they would have some kind of, formation or tactics on the corners.
I think if you're a team like, a Stoke or a Sunderland or one of those teams that, really relies from set pieces, they're going to practice their set piece play a lot more than a team like us, where the majority of our goals come from open play, breaking teams down, which isn't an excuse, but I think it's just a little bit of a reality of probably maybe why we do struggle a little bit, because I think we spend more time practicing other things. There's only so much time you can spend out there. But with the zonal marking, I just want to bring something up with the zonal marking. We've been doing that for a couple of years. Last year we did it, and no one said a word about it because we were doing it well. I think if you do it well, it's fine, and no one says a word about it. But as soon as it starts to go wrong, and the very first goal you concede from a set piece, the commentators start going nuts about zonal marking and how terrible it is. And yet, if you look at our statistics last season, I think we were some of the best from defending set pieces. So, for whatever reason, this season we've conceded 4 of 6 goals or something from set pieces, which is horrible. But I don't think it's the zonal marking that's the problem. I think it's just the execution of it. So it's almost like, remember when he started putting all the fullbacks on at the end of games to see out games when we had a 1-goal lead?
Yeah.
And it worked. You just know the very second that a team scored, and we ended up costing ourselves a couple of points and our team coming back with a draw, the media and Twitter fans would have gone absolutely mental about using that as a tactic. And yet it worked probably 6 times when he did it, but the one time that it doesn't, that they'll just jump all over it. So I'm not too concerned with the zonal marking just yet. We've got a bit of a new defence other than Koscielny and Mertesacker. So I think it might just be a little bit of got to remember how good Sanya was at set pieces and things too, and we've lost him out of the team. And with Debussy's come in, he might not be used to doing zonal marking. So I'm not trying to give excuses, but I'm just saying that zonal marking's not the problem. I think it's just the execution of it, because it works fine. I don't have that much of an issue with it.
With every sense of arrogance meant to Tottenham, surely when we come up against better teams, they will punish us because we do play too far up the field. I mean, a better team would have punished us today, surely, on the counter-attack. I mean, you had Chadley, who I could piss faster than his first shot on goal, and they had a couple of other breakaways where you think, do you know what, if that was against a Chelsea, or dare I say it, Man United, if they haven't already conceded 10 goals, that we could be really, really punished playing that type of game. Do you think that we are going to struggle against Chelsea, Chris?
In a word, yes. I hate, as a beautiful segue, because I was going to say we could touch on other results today. Chelsea look frightening, and it pains every fibre of my being to say that. I'm not going to mention he who shall not be named, but he's clearly got a very good understanding with the bloke who is so not 25 years old. He's blatantly 36, in Diego Costa, and I said all along, I still don't think long term Diego Costa will be as good as everyone says he is. I mean, at the moment he's wank off moment of the month, everybody's loving it, but I genuinely don't think. I think when he gets found out, I think it'll be very similar to Balotelli. He'll get roughed up by people and he'll lose his shit, and I think he'll fade away. But having said that, against our defence, you would probably think it would be the sort of game that Mertesacker will get hold of him. And again, I don't want to touch too far on that game at the risk of sort of killing some material, but I'm worried because there's nothing from today's game or the Man City game that suggests to me that we are defending better than last year. Probably the opposite. Okay, against City we looked better going forward, and we definitely looked a threat. And there were times today where we looked dangerous going forward, but at the back, that's what worries me. I've got no doubt that we'll score at Stamford Bridge, but how many we're going to let in, yeah, that is a worry. And just at this second, I want someone to beat Chelsea, because if they're still unbeaten at Christmas, I'm going to really start to panic.
Because we don't want the unbeatables or invincibles record to go, do we? Because we have quite a lot of pride in that, and so we should. The only other team that's ever done it to any degree is Preston North End, and what was that, 40 or 50 years ago?
Oh God, years and years. That was the days
More
of
than that, I think.
And and I'm sorry, but this is an 18 plus broadcast, but if those cunts do it, you would not hear the end of it, would you?
No. Oh God, no. Well, look at the Champions League. First club in London to win it, and we haven't had. Well, they're almost as bad as the bin dippers for banging on about history that they haven't actually got. So, it doesn't even bear thinking about it.
No. So, where do we go from here, gentlemen? Do we start to close this down, seeing as we've done our short but sweet half an hour?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Maybe we could should we just have a quick shout to a couple of people who are listening, so they can, so we can acknowledge they're alive?
No, go for it.
So we've got a couple of friends of the pod, a couple of regular names. We've got Akib, we've got Frederick Darnell, we've got Kadeem Reeves, we've got Carl Walker, Joe Curran, Indy's come and gone now, Connor Brennan, Ant Wand, and Ant very kindly tweeted me a link to a very crystal clear version of the goal, or the non-goal, by the way, the GIF file of that, and it does indeed appear that the second Lloris save was also in front of the line. So if that's true, hold my hands up. So thank you for that, Ant. Petros Minas Petridis, I hope I got that right. Dimitro Sando, King12223, John Welsh, Ewan Kayo. Is that Welsh, Kim? You should know that.
Fuck off, I'm not Welsh.
You just live there, I know.
You are such a cheeky prick.
Yeah. Tom H as well, and then just a couple of the more recent ones. We've had Internet History Podcast, Matt Fly Pigeon, who changes his mind like the weather. 1 minute he's Carpenter in, then he's Carpenter out, the cheeky monkey. Dropkick GAS, and there was one other one here who's dropped off the face of the planet, so I don't know who it was. But yeah, thank you to you all, and we can only apologise again for the earlier problems. Hopefully now we've got it sorted. Oh, there's a guy called Danny Gooner. Who's that? Who's that cheeky monkey?
I don't know.
Apparently it says bear checking in. I don't know who that is.
Some cheeky rapscallion.
Some bloke who's flying across the upper parts of England in a wheelchair with its wheels on fire, with a face of rage, no doubt. Hello to our very own Danny. Good evening, Danny. So yeah, thank you to you all for tuning in. If anyone else has got anything they want to bring up before we go, by all means bring it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got. I mean,
sorry.
what I could do is I could just say, if you're on here and you haven't heard on the podcast, that we're going for a podcast awards in the FBAs. Last year we finished second, and we were told that our Twitter hits or our Twitter votes were just phenomenal, but we were let down on the Facebook side of it. But if you get a chance and you haven't voted for us again, I will give you something now. If you write down or you tweet, I am voting in at the FBAs for the AFC podcast as the best #podcast football blog. That would be fantastic, because we'd love to win an award. I'm not above begging for people to give us a vote. I mean, are you, Chris?
God no, I'll beg for cheese. I'm not fussed.
Because we would like to use that day out as our first day out, so we all get to see each other.
Yes. That's
So
a very good point.
And I also think that we should run the prize that if we do make it up there for the awards, we will bring one of you lovely listeners with us, courtesy of a Burkamp Wonderland. We will put our hand in our pockets. Not you, Jeff, because I am not going to Canada to pick you up.
That's a disappointment.
Or Dom. Dom can swim over. He's fit and energetic.
I tell you what, Dom, you could come at the awards in my place. I just get to live your lifestyle. I mean, I can eat shit. I'm not, prepared to eat the healthy lifestyle. Just as long as you've got loads of beer and cake in your fridge, be happy.
There is none of that.
And we're not bringing the noob, by the way. The noob is not coming, because he'll bring a placard with my name on it or something, or he'll Photoshop me doing something inappropriate and spread it across the internet. So noob, you're not coming.
Oh, he's a nice guy though. So by now you should have. Danny's not coming. He's not coming. Everybody.
Boo.
I think that's awful. Right
Said he
then.
ill that day. Oh, outrageous.
He's washing his hair.
Oh, I've just been told Ewan, or Ewan, by the way, it is pronounced Ewan. Sorry, Ewan, I do apologise.
Oh, people want to know, or should I say, Connor would like to know what we made of Jeff versus Mo.
Oh. Gim, you should answer that first, because you were there live, and then Dom after that, I would say.
I think the easiest way of saying it, I'm going to get lynched for this, is Mo is someone that I've had a lot of experience with. I've known Mo for a while. I've even been on AFTV podcasts with him, and he used to be such a really nice fella, but he started up this you spend we spend stuff, and just the whole hype about himself and the arrogance that he portrays from himself is it's cringeworthy to coin a word. For anyone that's listening that actually doesn't condone Jeff and maybe harsh treatment that we gave Mo on this week's podcast, I think you should make it clear that what actually fueled the start of the argument is Mo tweeting that he was prepared to go brain cell to brain cell with anyone on Twitter, and Jeff, being Jeff, who likes everything on an even keel, said, you know what, I'm going to have me some of that. In regards to the argument, I thought it was a very fair argument. I thought, it was very close, but I think Jeff probably won. For me, there was a lot of figures from Mo, but there wasn't any fact to back it up. I don't know if you'd agree with that, Chris.
Yeah, I was a fan this week listening in to the podcast, and it was fantastic work, by the way. And congrats to all on behalf of myself to you guys. I was actually one of the few that didn't really know anything about the whole feud, shall we say?
Yes.
So I came in completely blank. I'm a little bit like Dom in this respect. I think Dom will speak for himself, I'm sure, but I don't really get involved in or I don't sort of follow these people. So obviously from Jeff's point of view, he's got so many thousand followers, and obviously people hang on his word, and rightly so, because the one thing that I will always say above anything else is that Jeff is an absolute gentleman, and at no time has he ever said anything what I would deem to be offensive or derogatory to anybody else. And the other thing that I did notice is that Jeff will always, he's a very humble guy. He'll always retweet the people that dislike him, and he'll always retweet the people that do like him, and he's very fair on that. And for someone that had no experience of Mo or of anyone else in that sort of you spend we spend campaign, I thought the campaign was quite silly at the time, if I'm honest. Just my personal view. And listening to the pod, it was pretty clear that, like you said, Jeff had got taken a bit of offence to what has been said about him, and I thought it was pretty unwarranted, really. And we've all read what's gone on sort of since then, and it's pretty clear that some people can't back up their words, shall we say. So fair play to Jeff and to all of you. And if you haven't spent your Tesco club card points yet, I suggest you get on and do it.
And I do think that there's going to be a lot of people listening to that podcast that actually go, Tesco's, what's all the references to Tesco's? And I'll actually break it live here. Before they actually started recording the podcast, Mo's gone about and told everybody that he's an accountant of some type, hasn't he? Was it a chartered accountant or something?
Yeah.
But he didn't actually stress who he was an accountant for. But before they actually pushed the record button on the show, he gave Jeff a little bit of a nudge in the ribs, and he said, by the way, I'm an accountant for Tesco's, who this week, basically down to their accounting department, lost them hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds. So that's where the whole Tesco joke comes from. Of course, I know there's going to be some people that listen to this that don't like Jeff. There's going to be some people that listen to this that don't like Mo. But everything is out there in the open now. And my opinion is, I think it has the capacity for a part 2. It has been said that maybe this week's podcast will be a part 2. But we are still very much undecided as a group as to whether to take that on, because we're not sure how much can actually be said in another podcast that hasn't already been said.
And there's a message in the chat box as well, Gim, from Dropkick GAS, and he said he would rather have Jeff versus Tim Payton. We had a little teaser of that, didn't we, on the transfer deadline day sum up pod, and I believe that's something we're potentially going to look at again in the future.
Well, I can confirm that on the 6th of October, we have got Blackburn George and Jeff Arsenal versus Tim Payton and Gav from She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. Of course, everyone knows Gav. He needs no introduction. And that's going to be a right slobber knocker. I think that's the only way to say it. But that's definitely going to be something to look forward to. And as ever, all of our debates are carried out with the utmost respect. I mean, it might sound heated at the time, but I can assure you, as soon as we come off what is classified as air, I suppose, that we're all effing and blinded at each other in the nicest possible way. We are good friends.
And we should also give a shout out to Andrew, who's at PR Who Are You on Twitter. His financial breakdown and information was top notch on the pod this week, and I'm sure you don't mind me saying that, Gim. I thought his input was excellent, and we sort of value having him on board as sort of one of the newer crew members. And yeah, I thought his information that he put out was absolutely top notch.
No, I think it's fantastic.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but my window of recording has slipped away here, and I'm going to have to drop off. But I'd love to join you guys again sometime, maybe without the technical issues, if that's all right.
No, that's fine. I think we've
We'll try.
just about managed it. Thank you very much for joining us, Jeff. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been fun, guys, and I I just thought I'd add, I think last weekend when we did this live, I teased that there would be a new blog, and Danny has it, so hopefully it will be up in the next few days. So if you're listening, to the people that listen to the podcast and read the blogs, thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun, and there should be a new one up this week.
Yep, and there's going to be also blogs coming from ex-Arsenal player David Hillier, and I'm not going to break the news as to who we've got lined up to come in on the podcast, but Chris, there are some pretty big names, aren't there?
Yes, yeah, very much so. I think we had a little bit of a tease on the last ABW show, but I, for one, am extremely excited about who we've got coming up, and we do this, and I'll make you feel a bit more awkward here, Gim, but I'll put you on the spot in front of everyone. The work that Gim and Danny put into getting these sort of things together is hugely appreciated by all of us that come on as guests. Obviously, the whole crew that we have, including all the other guys, Jeff, Raj, Andrew, who am I forgetting? Obviously, Dom. Am I forgetting anyone, or is that everyone?
The Welshman.
Sorry?
Can't forget the Welshman.
Oh, God, and Jace. Well, I try and forget Jace, but he never lets me.
Oi, Davis, no!
Oi, Davis! But no, we do hugely appreciate it, and what we've built here is, I think it's fair to say, it's got probably bigger than we expected at the initial outset, and the following that we've gained is fantastic, and that in itself provides us with a platform to get some really top-notch guests, because am I right in saying, Gim, they will speak to you personally, these guests that we get on, and they will ask to hear some of the product and get a bit of feedback, because they're not just going to go on any show or any radio show. They want to know what we're doing. So
with Matt Lucas, I first made contact with Matt Lucas back in, I think it was January, February time, and of course you guys know that he's on around the 20th or the 23rd of October this month. But it was, first of all, we made contact, and I had a bit of a chat with him. Absolutely lovely fella. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am to have him on the show, because if he's as funny as he comes across from what he says over text, then he's going to be a winner. But we spoke also through his agent, and there was emails back and forth through the agent as well until we eventually found a date on it. And it's a relief to have him in the book. I think we've been so lucky with the people that we've had on this season. We've had John Gregory, Martin Lipton, Rob Beckett, and if you are thinking of those types of names, then I think you'll probably be happy with what we've got coming up for the next, between now and Christmas, because I can promise you, there is going to be a couple of ex-Arsenal players on there from what I know, couple of comedians, couple of journalists as well. There's going to be the same great panelists and conversation, and I believe there is even another football manager coming on.
Not me.
No. Someone that's got a little fraud. You are a fraud. How many games, no wins?
Oh, shut up.
I digress.
A few.
So enough of that. Our time is drawing to a close, so I'd like to thank everybody for listening to us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know you've probably sat there thinking, what the fuck are these twats on? But it's taken a lot of time. I would have preferred to have done this by about 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening and be downstairs smoking a spliff in front of Grease 2 with the missus. Right? But sometimes life doesn't necessarily work out like we planned, gentlemen.
And also, can we thank and give Dom a chance to say something, because he's got up at, what time did you get up today, Dom, just to step in?
I was awake at about 8 o'clock this morning.
Oh, you could have made it sound like this morning again. You could have made it sound like really dramatic, like you got up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to be. No, I got up at
8 o'clock yesterday morning, and then I was awake all day, watched the AFL Grand Final that we had on, and then started watching Premier League at night, and I just haven't gone to sleep yet. So 24 hours I'm going.
That's commitment, boys and girls. That is commitment, and obviously you do that for the pods when you come on as well late at night. And when we went to go live, Gim, it was just me and you and the missus, wasn't it? Sat there, going, okay, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. Then Danny set his wheelchair on fire and went on a rampage, and it was all looking very bleak. and then Dom came in. Dom came in late as essentially a Danny light or a Danny heavy. What would you? Well, you're definitely a Danny light, aren't you, Dom? I'd say.
Oh, I'd say he's definitely a good 20 stone light. No, I didn't mean it like that. I mean like 20 stone lighter, sorry.
Poor old Danny. And Danny's just put in the chat box, I'd like to thank Chris's hairdresser. There's an element of jealousy creeping in there, Danny, I'm sure.
It is. He just
Can I bring something up before we sneak off about the whole Mo Jeff thing? Just from someone like said with Chris. I don't try to tend to get into stuff on Twitter much, except for LeGrove, who tries to be an expert on injuries, and that makes me have a panic attack every time he does that. But with the Mo Jeff thing, the whole you spend we spend thing was a campaign basically against Puma, wasn't it, or against the club in general?
Yeah,
it was.
He wasn't going to buy any shirts and things unless Arsenal went and spent money.
Yes.
Okay, so the Puma deal. Am I wrong in saying that Puma give Arsenal a certain fee, but the money that is spent on shirts goes to Puma, not to the club?
See, I don't know. I think that's I don't know. I know from the Man United shirts.
I think what happens. I'm pretty sure what happens is that, and I could be wrong, but if someone in the box knows, just type it in there. But I'm pretty sure what happens is Puma give us $30 million a year or whatever it is to have the shirts, and then the shirts that we sell, they're the ones that get a vast majority of the profit from, which would make sense. So why? No,
I thought we got more profit off the shirts than we usually did with Nike. Yeah, I think that the deal was in a way better for us financially than what Nike was. Not only as we'll give you more money a year, but what we're making on the shirt was more as well. Oh my God! Do you know what I've just seen?
Go on.
John Welsh, hang your head in shame.
What's he put?
Daddy,
oh,
do you think Chris looks like a young bully?
That is outrageous.
Can I answer that one? No, because he's not a cunt.
I'm not a pop-up pirate, as I've just put in the chat box there.
Not a pop-up pirate.
I am a very unique taste to look at, and it's not necessarily a good taste. But just to finish on Dom's point there, I think Dom's point is kind of spot on with regards to the actual campaign itself. It was a bit of a...
sorry, I'll just finish up on that, just because it's something that I was thinking about, that and this is, I'm not trying to have a go at Mo or anything, I'm just thinking out loud. Someone that is an accountant that thinks that his whole argument with Jeff was that he just kept saying finances and projections and just using buzzwords, but there was no actual substance behind anything that he was saying. But surely someone that has any kind of financial knowledge wouldn't start a campaign about you spend, we spend, and against a partner that's only just started. They hadn't even started taking over. It was still Nike when he was campaigning you spend, we spend.
Yes,
Puma hadn't even started taking over yet to know whether they were going to spend any money or not. And I'm still pretty sure that Puma Puma are the ones that make a reasonable amount of percentage from the shirt sales. So he's campaigning against a company that hasn't even started with our club yet. And he doesn't even know that they're not going to... wouldn't you do that at the end of the window? I mean, it's just really confusing to me that someone that claims to have so much financial knowledge has a campaign against a sponsorship deal that the club aren't really affected by or people not buying the shirts. Puma are the ones that are affected by people not buying the shirts.
Ant's put something in the chat box. Game if
they haven't even started the sponsorship deal yet. So... That's just what really, really confused me. So I'd really like to ask that question to Mo, that why are you starting a campaign against a sponsor that hasn't actually started sponsoring the club technically, and you're not hurting Arsenal. You're not forcing Arsenal to buy players by saying we're not going to spend unless you spend, because it's not Arsenal that you're punishing. It's Puma, because they're the ones that have the name on the shirt, and they're the ones that get the majority of the money from the shirt. And I just would have thought that someone that's an accountant or in finances would have probably known that information. That's all.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with the whole campaign was, we've seen BSM do protests and whatnot, and I will say, if Raj is listening or listens to this, we know that that's not what the BSM are about, because they want just a fairer Arsenal for everybody. But my problem with it was the fact that it's you spend, we spend, and it wasn't a campaign about you spend, we spend. It seemed to be that the focal point of you spend, we spend was getting Mo on telly, on AFC TV or whatever it's called, or pretty much, on social media. And it was more about getting his face out there than more of, what it was as a campaign. I mean, myself, I can't blame anyone or criticise anyone that puts their head above the trenches to try and make a difference. But I don't get where the difference was ever going to be from that campaign. And I think it was ill-founded.
That's why I'm confused, because it just doesn't make any sense to me, the timing of it, the campaigning against Arsenal to spend money, and yet saying that we're not going to buy merchandise probably doesn't actually hurt the club that much. It would more so hurt Puma, who are the new sponsor, who have only just jumped on board, who have no control over our spend in the transfer window. So it just made no sense to me whatsoever, the whole thing. And like you said, I think it is just, at the end of the day, we've given him a platform, and we've basically just given him exactly what he wants, which is something to yell and scream about. And he was the one that called Jeff out and organised the podcast debate and wanted to do it on the TV one, which obviously Jeff didn't want to do. So I know that every time someone sticks their head above water, you're going to have your critics, you're going to have people knocking it down. But if you're Mo, I don't think you can really be upset, I think, at some of the criticism that's been laid, because I just haven't really seen any substance to back up any of the arguments. And even when Andrew was tweeting him, basically just asking him questions to actually give some financial substance, give some numbers and facts, he wouldn't do it, and eventually just said that he's just going to ignore Andrew and stop tweeting him.
But when you've got a campaign like that, when you've got a campaign like that, you know that you've got to cover every single angle, and all of your bases have got to be covered.
You have to have an answer for everything. You have to have, you can't just sort of go, oh, well, I'm not talking to you anymore because you won't listen to what I said. And he just keeps saying the same thing over again, which is financial projections and past transfer windows and, just buzzwords that don't actually have any. If he'd said, look, I know for a fact that Arsenal had X amount of cash reserves in the bank for transfers, because we know that there's money there, but we don't know for a fact how much is there for transfers. We just don't.
But the thing is, the way that he still proceeded with it after, we signed Alexis Sanchez, and I don't think that there's many people out there that could go, cool, Alexis Sanchez, I'm still going to protest against Arsenal, but that's what I'm going to do. Do you know what I mean? And it's the whole...
I think that was the argument that Andrew brought up, that after we bought one world-class player early in the window, why did you keep campaigning, and how were you to know that we weren't going to buy any more? And his answer to that was, oh, well, I just knew. That's not an argument. That's not...
No.
And so I guess that's where the criticism lies from us and from Andrew and from Jeff and some of the haters that he's getting is that you can't, like you said, you can't campaign something like that. You can't have such negative things to say about something people love so much without having a really good substance to back up your argument. And I've got no problem with people having opinions, like you said, no problem with people putting themselves out there about ticket prices and things. I know that people give Tim Payton a lot of stick, but at the end of the day, he's trying his best, I guess, in his own way to do what he feels is best for the fans. Whereas I think Mo was just doing what's best for him to get his...
And if you see what Danny just put in the group about Mo, that Mo went and spent £300 in the club shop during his Actuo campaign, I think pretty much underlines everything that, needs to be said about it. But if you noticed, and the thing that I picked up from their debate the other day was that once Jeff called it and basically said, why have you still protested after we've gone out and signed what was and still is a world-class player?
Exactly.
Why have you carried on with it? And his only argument to that was, well, we didn't buy the players that we needed, but that wasn't the campaign that he fucking put out there, was it?
Exactly. I wanted to say something very briefly on that. I think people need to, and this is not me lecturing people, it's just my personal opinion, as long... people will say, oh, Arsene Wenger doesn't buy these players, he won't spend over the odds for this player, won't spend... I don't actually think, I haven't thought for a long time, that that's purely down to Arsene Wenger. I think the club look at other examples, and we went down the road of financial fair play. We're going to do things the right way. If we suddenly go out and start spunking money like the Man Cities, the Man Uniteds, the Chelseas, then how big a hypocrite do we look? I don't think we're ever going to be a club that is going to go out and buy 5 or 6 players at 30 million each. We may well do the one marquee signing every summer, as we did with Ozil last year, with Alexis this year, but I don't think. I agree with people when they say that we didn't get the numbers in that we needed, and I think even Arsene has said that he made a mistake in not bringing in the right amount of players that he should have. But as far as this, you spend, we spend, I don't think it comes down to how much money we have or haven't got in the bank. I think we could have 64 billion, or according to Paul Merson, gazillion or zillion, or whatever he said, gillion. We could have unlimited funds in the bank. That is not going to make Arsene Wenger go out and go, oh, okay, let's go and buy all these players. I don't think that's ever going to happen, because we're a club that clearly we want to do things the right way. The only issue I've got with it is, we're not buying enough players. It's not the value of the players we're spending, and the Falcao deal is proof of that. If we really wanted to have got Falcao, the money was not the issue. We could have got him, but we looked at the deal and went, you know what? We're paying a loan fee for a player that's not even fit, whereas we could get a young English player for well over half the value or half the spend. So I think the whole campaign in itself, in my opinion, was pretty flawed anyway. And let's be honest, it doesn't matter how many bed sheets you've got or how many Twitter pages you've got. The only people that are responsible for how much money Arsenal Football Club spend are Ivan Gazidis, the directors, and the manager. And nobody who says anything is ever going to change that.
The biggest thing with this whole thing, though, is that we don't know, and that's what I could just keep going back to anyone that wants to argue the point about our transfer window and what we spent. I'm disappointed as anybody that we didn't get in at least a centre back, and I don't care if it was a £5 million centre back or on a free, or I trust Arsene's judgment to get in the quality that he sees fit. But that, to me, was just a little bit of an oversight to not bring anybody in. I'm definitely disappointed we didn't get a holding midfielder or a defensive midfielder. But at the end of the day, it's hard to be critical and point fingers at blame when, what would we know? We really don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We really don't know. And the thing is anytime you're frustrated when you emotionally invest in something like football or anything in life, when something doesn't go right, the first thing humans do in human nature is point blame. Yep. Everything we do, we always point. We've done it today about Tottenham and the game. Who's to blame? Who's to blame? Is it the refs? Is it the players? Is it Arsene Wenger? You just want an outlet for your frustration. But at the end of the day, when it comes to transfers, we don't know. So I think we've got to remember that and maybe just get frustrated as a whole at the whole of the club or something. But when it comes to just pointing fingers at individuals, it would be really interesting to hear Arsene Wenger in a candid interview one day when he's finished his career, just to know where people say, oh, the money's been there, but has the money been there available for him to spend? And if it has, then fair enough, you can point blame, but we don't know.
No, and I think that leads us nicely to another topic that, what people are chatting in the group, that, Mo came out and said that he could do a better job than Ivan Gazidis, and I think, even the sentiment of it is just even laughable. I mean, we're talking about Ivan Gazidis, a man that he went to Oxford University, and for many people that don't know me, although I live in Wales, I am from Oxford, and I can say that the universities in Oxford are, if not the finest in the world. Granted, on the flip side of the coin, he is actually a Manchester City fan, but we can't blame him too much for that. But if you look at the things that he's brought in, I mean, he set up deals with Jean Ricard, the watches, Gatorade as well. Financially, he's put us in an absolutely tremendous situation. For someone, like Mo to say, who works for Tesco, who's just lost the company 200 odd plus million pounds a year, is just sheer naivety. Gazidis comes in for a lot of criticism, but I think it does lead on from what Dom said there. When we aren't spending money or when we aren't getting the typical types of player, you've always got the people that just cannot see any wrong from Arsene Wenger. That he's for everything that Arsene Wenger does, he does for a reason. And I guess Ivan Gazidis is the man that stands behind Arsene Wenger taking the hits, I guess, isn't it?
Totally agree.
That's right. That's probably the truth lies somewhere in the middle, as always, where you have extreme views on one side and extreme views on the other side. Generally, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So there are the people that think that Arsene can do no wrong and that he's a flawless individual, which is completely untrue. And I'm sure if you actually spoke to him, the thing is he's not going to come out in the media and say, "Oh, I've made a big mistake. I didn't buy enough defenders, and oh, look, I've dragged my heels over this deal. That's why that didn't." That's just not going to happen. He's not going to say those things. So that's where people are left to draw their own conclusions, and people get frustrated when he says things like, "Oh, well, we don't need a defensive midfielder. We've got Francis Coquelin here." He's not stupid. He knows that Coquelin's not up to our level and that he would prefer someone better. But what's he going to say? "Oh, yeah, you're right. Arteta's a bit old and shit, and yeah, we've definitely stuffed up and cost ourselves a chance at the title now, haven't we?" It's just not going to happen. So it's predictable what he's going to say. We know what he's going to say. We know that yes, he's a flawed individual like everybody, and he's not perfect. But like all things, the truth lies somewhere in the middle when it comes to criticism and blame.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
We should, if you wanted to, obviously, I know we're going to wrap this up shortly because we've probably bored everyone to tears by now. But should we just go round individually and just sort of ask each other with regards to today's game, just as a final sum up, pluses and minuses? Did you want to start, Dom?
Yeah.
Okay. For a plus, I'll say I actually thought Ozil played quite well, considering some of the stick that he's been given and the way that Tottenham sat back and didn't give him any space whatsoever to move in. I thought that he didn't hide. I thought that he was always moving to get the ball. So I thought, that there's a positive there, even though he didn't score goals and assists like he did the week before, which seems to be what people focus on the most. I thought Oxlade-Chamberlain's performance was good. Kind of probably justified getting his selection in the team. I thought he was energetic and he definitely gave us something going forward, which was good, something a little bit different. And on the negative side of things, I guess just not being so clinical with our chances, which is going to hurt against better sides. And also the injuries is a big one because we're not going to see Ramsey and Arteta for 3 to 4 weeks, and we've got a really, really busy 3 to 4 week period coming up. So I'm sure when we have our pre-match conference thing, when Arsene Wenger comes out before the Galatasaray game, you'll hear him say, Arteta has a calf strain and Ramsey has a hamstring strain, and depending on how they pull up with rehab and recovery, it'll be somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks, but don't get your hopes up for the 2 weeks. It'll be 3 to 4.
Well said. I'll chuck my 5p in and then I'll let you close us out, Kim, if that's cool with you.
No, that's fine.
I wanted to highlight Callum Chambers in particular today. This is a lad that barely played 20 games for Southampton last season. A lad that's come into our club with quite a big reputation, which was probably unjustified based upon the fact that he's still coming through the ranks. There was an awful lot of expectation on the lad. He's come to the biggest club in London, and he's slotted in seamlessly. And he's played 3 different positions over the course of his time at the club already. And I thought today he was outstanding. One of my biggest worries when Debussy went down was, oh fuck, we're going to have to play Callum Chambers week in, week out. And not because I didn't believe in the lad, but because I thought that's an immense amount of pressure to put on a player who's has literally just come in at this level. And I thought he handled himself superbly today. And the one thing I really like about him, he doesn't panic on the ball. One thing that you can always say, and don't get it wrong, I still hope Carl Jenkinson makes the grade at Arsenal, but the one thing he does when he's on the ball is he shits himself, and it's constantly trying to get rid of it or pass it off to somebody because he's not confident at this level yet, and hopefully he'll get that battered out of him at West Ham. But Chambers, there's just the way he hit that volley even towards the end. I mean, that was, I think they said in the commentary, it was like a striker hitting that. The way he plays and the technique he uses is class. And like Dom said, Ozil, when he was moved in the second half to that position behind the striker, there's again no coincidence that he performed better. I actually thought Santi Cazorla did quite well when he came on because he gave us that balance down that side. And that guy's balance is it's a thing of beauty. 2-footed, he's just a little magician on the ball, and I love him to bits. and I thought Mertesacker and Koscielny looked a little bit more solid today. I think Mertesacker's been a bit rusty going into the start of the season. We did kind of bring him back probably a little bit ahead of schedule because, surprise, surprise, we got injuries. But I think they looked a bit more solid today. And like Dom said, Oxlade-Chamberlain was superb. And very briefly on the negatives, again, what Dom said there is the punishing fixtures we've got coming up. I think we'll have enough to beat Galatasaray at home, personally, no matter what side we put out. But the Chelsea game does worry me. The only good thing you'd say is we've got our first choice back for, barring Debussy, or touch wood, should be available for that game. And in a weird way, having Arteta out might be a blessing in disguise because we'll probably play a more defensive player there, whether that be Flamini or another. I'd personally like to see Jack Wilshere there. And I'd like to see Rosicky, even though I know, Kim, you were not his biggest fan on Tuesday rather. But I think he's a player that, if you say to him, look, we need you to put in 6 solid shifts now, 6 games, whatever it may be, to really carry this team, I think he'll do an excellent job. So roll on Wednesday, and Gem, I'll let you have your thoughts and close us up.
See, I'm actually going to agree with Danny. For me, the plus points of today were the Ox, were Callum Chambers, and Kieran Gibbs. I think Kieran Gibbs has got a great engine on him. What we bought him as an attacking midfielder, left winger, and as a defender, you know, sometimes he gets caught out of position, as in he tracks up too far. But defensively, I think at the moment we'd be absolutely stuffed without him, even if Monreal were to come in and try and fill that void. Callum Chambers, you know, totally echo what you said. For a guy that's that young, he just shows utter calmness on the ball, and there is the sense of, you know, he's not scared to come forward, he's not scared to challenge people, and I think that's refreshing to see. I think at the moment we are lucky in a way, as even though Debussy is injured, in that position we've got a world-class right back and cover for right back. And finally, I must also touch on Oxlade-Chamberlain. If you listen to his interview after the game, just the guy is such a down-to-earth, you know, player. He talks so much sense, his understanding of the game. He runs at people. He can drop a shoulder. He can just, you know, shimmy past people. He's just quality. And, you know, we are lucky to have in midfield some of just the greatest players that over the next 5 years will be on the world stage. So yeah, out of those 3, that's definitely my pluses. On the minuses, I think it's definitely got to be, you know, Ramsey, who, you know, I've seen in the group is going to be out till after the internationals. I don't necessarily, and it's harsh, I don't think Arteta's going to be that much of a loss, because I do actually, or I would actually prefer to see Flamini play in that position other than him. But I think January is going to be the time when you see a defensive midfielder come in and touch wood. I hope that defensive midfielder is William Carvalho. But I think, yeah, that pretty much sums up everything that I've got to say. So I think it's almost time for me to say those immortal words, isn't it, gentlemen?
Yes, absolutely.
So that was a Burkamp Wonderland radio special. Thank you so much for listening and taking part. Good night.
Good night, all.